Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to go with the Marvel Universe. From the comics, TV, and movies, we'll go from the Mojoverse to Earth 616 to Earth 838 in order to bring the universe right to you. I'm the man without fear, Chris.
I'm your friendly neighborhood Brent.
Alliance, assemble.
Assemble.
See, this is volume 107. Me tripping up on the intro is me saying, "Oh, I forgot to change something," and that's why I do things on the. That's why I try not to do things on the fly because it comes
I
out
was
like
going to
that.
say, if you don't say 883, I'm going to be disappointed in you.
Oh, I said 838, 883, whatever I said. We're in the multiverse, ladies and gentlemen. It is finally here. It is our big Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness spoiler review. I'm excited. This was a real treat.
Yes, it was. I think we're going to have some fun tonight.
We are going to have some fun, and we have a fun panel from representing all across the GUA. So we will bring them in shortly. But let's not dwell too much on talking about it yet. So let's get those network plugs out of the way. We are part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network with 8 shows. On Mondays, we've got Slice of Film alternating bi-weekly with Ranger Alliance. Tuesdays, DC Alliance. Wednesdays, Superhero Discussions. Thursday, Star Wars Alliance. This show typically on Fridays, and on Saturdays, bi-weekly, a walk through the multiverse, and my show, World's Finest True Believers, moving to monthly on the last Sunday of each month. And if you want to catch some of these shows live, subscribe to the Geek First Podcast YouTube channel. And on Monday nights, DC Alliance goes live at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Star Wars Alliance goes live at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesdays. And Marvel Alliance goes live Thursday nights at 9:10 Eastern Standard Time. Each one of those shows has their own separate solo podcast feed, separate from the GUA. So if you want to have all of them at once, do the GUA. If you want to subscribe to some of the solos, give that a subscribe. We greatly appreciate it. And we have, again, we also have a Patreon. So if you want to throw a couple of shekels our way, we got 2 tiers, dollar tiers, our tip jar to say, hey, we're doing a good job. You want to appreciate it. And then we've got our $5 tier with our ad-free episodes, early access episodes, and Patreon exclusive shows. And as always, you got a lot of different things. We've got our We Can Watch This All Day. Our episode 4, The Incredible Hulk, is on there. Batman 89 reviews, Joe's Multiverse Minutes looking at the boys, marching to the new season, Travis's top 5s. Ranger Alliance has got looking at the costumes and the future of the Power Rangers. Katie in the canon, non-canon comics and books, everything we got for our patrons. We greatly appreciate your support. We cannot do this without you. But if you can't join us on Patreon, we understand. But if you can give us 30, 90 seconds and rate and review the Marvel Alliance and or GUA podcast feed, we greatly appreciate it. Give that 5-star review. And last but not least, our official sponsor, we want to thank Organic Price Books for all your omnibus collected edition needs. Use that code MarvelGUA at checkout for $2 off every single order. And so I did a quick search. So, hey, we're talking about Doctor Strange. Let's see what they got on there. We got a lot of different omnis that have come up that if you want to know more about the master of mysticism, we've got all these lovely Doctor Strange books on OPB. Give them a look. Use that code MarvelGUA at checkout. Ships around the world. Excellent packaging. Immaculate customer service. We want to thank them for being our official sponsor. All right. So, do you think it's time to bring him in?
Bring him in. Let's do this.
Bring him in. Let's bring him in through the portals.
Bring in our own Illuminati, if you will.
Yes. Surprises all around, right? All right. So very first at that point, let us go in and bring in, if we're talking about the multiverse and we're walking through the verse, let's bring in the man himself, also co-host of Ranger Alliance. It is Joe. How are you doing, Joe?
I'm doing great, guys. How are you guys tonight?
Good.
Hey,
ready to do this.
Good to hear. I'm looking forward. This movie was a blast. Ups, downs, all around through the multiverse we go. Let's do this.
Let's do this. And next, the co-host of Ranger Alliance, DC Alliance, and Star Wars Alliance.
Never misses a chance to talk Marvel.
Never misses a chance to talk Marvel. It is Clay.
I like that one, Brett. Now, thank you guys for having me. I am really excited to talk about this movie. Not going to give any spoiler-free thoughts yet, but really, really happy to be here. This movie was very surprising. I will say that. And I can't wait to talk about it.
Yep. And last, but definitely not least, the co-host of Slice of Film and Star Wars Alliance, Katie.
The wrecker of all things Marvel is here. I don't know.
We'll find out. We'll find out.
Oh, geez. I mean,
Your takes can't be too bad because there was no Daredevil, so it can't be too bad.
I don't know.
Or
I don't
was
know.
there?
We'll see what happens.
oh yeah, no, it's gonna be interesting. I think this is the first time you've been back on for a Marvel review since Black Widow, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so.
Yeah, because you weren't able to join us for No Way Home, right?
No, I didn't get on
Okay.
for No Way Home.
Gotcha. So yeah,
I think the last joint review I was supposed to do was the Batman, but then travel plans happened. So yeah.
Life
You really
happens.
missed out on that Morbius review. Just saying.
I think we all would have been in agreement on that. So I don't think I would have provided the hot takes there.
Gotcha. Well, welcome back at that point. And again, so this is our panel. So let us, everyone's chomping at the bit to talk about everything about this movie, but let us go with first our non-spoiler thoughts. So I'll start with how I introduced everyone. So Joe, why don't you start off with your non-spoiler thoughts?
Let's see. So this movie, like I said earlier, I had a blast with it. There was some wonky things in the first act, and when we get into actually talk about it, I will bring it up. But all in all, I had a blast when some cameos showed up. I definitely got excited in theaters. My friend who went with me, he had read spoilers. He doesn't care. Like he reads the spoilers mainly so that when he comes with me, he can watch my reactions when things happen. And when something happened, he was just staring right at me and waiting for my reaction. But all in all, I enjoyed this movie. It's I don't know if we're going to be doing rankings at the end or not, but
We will.
Okay, cool. Because I totally forgot to do that, and I was doing that while you were introducing everybody. So we'll see where it lands for me.
Awesome. All right, Clay.
I ranked this movie immediately after the post-credit scenes. I think I have it exactly where it fits in my rankings, so I will be excited to share that. This movie was great. I think I messaged Joe, was probably the first person that I talked to
I think
after
I was the
I watched
first one.
it.
I was first one.
Yeah.
Outside you, that was done. Yeah.
Yeah, which was very surprising that I was the first one to watch it compared to everybody else. Like Brent says, I just can't wait to talk Marvel every single time, man. But I told Joe this is a pure Raimi movie, which is why I had to jump on this panel, because I can't wait to hear Brent's opinion on this, because there is some things that he's always said about Raimi that was definitely in this movie. And so I'm very curious to see if his attitude has changed because it's MCU, but I'm excited to hear about it. But this movie, just like Joe, I was really excited to see the cameos. Unfortunately, like I said, on DC Alliance, somebody actually showed me the leaked picture with no warning whatsoever. So I did.
You should block that person.
It was
block him in real life.
It was in person that he showed it to me.
You can block him in real life. It's called
Done.
He's dead to me.
Unless it was your wife, I don't see the issue.
Oh no, that could still happen. But you go to that room.
Clay, I know a guy that knows a guy. All right.
Okay. We'll talk after the show. But
Speaks a little Spanish. Anyway,
I was okay with knowing it ahead of time, because some things leak. I understand. I saw the leak for No Way Home and it didn't change anything. Here it changed a little bit of hype for me, but there was so much more in this movie that actually had me just amazed at what I was watching. So it's not like me and the Batman where I'm coming in here with a hot take or anything. This is probably I guess hottest take of 2022 is this is the best movie I've seen in 2022.
All right.
So
Awesome. Well,
What-
set the bar high.
You didn't like Northman better than this? Sorry, off topic.
Northman is a little is a not usually my cup of tea. I enjoyed the
Right.
movie, but as far as the movies that I just generally love, this was right up my alley.
It's
Gotcha.
Marvel, so it's up Clay's alley. So, all right, Katie, what are you gonna start off with your hot takes?
Well, this movie was better than any of Raimi's Spider-Man movies. So,
All right, that's a hot take.
no, I was not the biggest fan. I thought the story definitely struggled in a lot of places. It seems very simple for what the rest of the movie tries to show. It is, and two of the main characters are just left to hang out to dry. So this is bottom 5 on my list. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it for MCU. So,
Hey,
Wow.
you know, there we go. We'll start it off, and we'll definitely look forward to when we get into the spoilers, some of the commentary on that. Brent, what are your thoughts?
So I've pretty much described this movie as fun, creepy, super comic booky, like in all the best ways. I had a great time watching this movie. Yes, there was some cheese in it, like we were talking about just a little bit earlier. There was definitely some cheese, but it was in a way that fits Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is a character that lends himself towards elements of horror, elements of cheese, elements of weird. That's Doctor Strange, and that's what this movie was. I had a great time with it. I'll reserve my rankings for later, at the end, but that's where I'm at with it.
I know. I just wanted to set expectations. I saw the show notes. I just wanted to set expectations.
It's all good. Yeah, I'm a big Sam Raimi fan, especially when it comes to, where he started in horror at that point with The Evil Dead. And so as soon as, when I see the creepy, suspenseful, horror-like vibes on it, Sam Raimi's fingerprints are he is hearkening back to a lot of what made him what he became to a lot of his cult favorites of the horror genre at that point. So not only of the infamous cameo we were all waiting for him to put in, as he does in many of his movies with his buddy, but it's very much, I think with this movie, a lot of people, and it's to our problem as a fan, to what the press and everything deals up to with how many cameos and things like that. Some people go in expecting one thing and leave with another. I wanted more cameos, or I expected this and that. Like this was a movie that was going to be ripe with some people setting very high expectations. But all in all, I would say I really enjoyed it. I do agree there are some parts of the writing and the kind of the script that kind of go a little bit get muddled at points. But I was really surprised at how fast this movie went, and how pretty much like there are times where you get those quiet beats and get those kind of moments to collect yourself, but it moves and it keeps moving. I was surprised exactly like where we started introducing some people and their motives and things like that. So all in all, it is not at the top of my list. It's definitely not in the bottom, but it is going to be in my middle pack. And so I'll wait until the end to reveal where that is. So all right, so everyone's got their non-spoiler thoughts out, so we're going to take our first ad break. So if you all have not seen Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, now is the time to stop. But unless you don't care about spoilers, well, continue listening after this lovely ad break that helps keep the lights on at the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. So I'll give you that 3 count to turn that volume down before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. All right, so for those of you that this is your first Marvel Alliance review, we've moved to a format that we're going to break down the movie into 3 acts at that point. So starting off with our first act at that point, who wants to take one? We're not going to go in any sort of order. We're not going to dictate the movie to you all at that point. You've seen it. If you haven't seen it, we're not going to talk about every single point. But who wants to talk about Act 1?
Well, right out of the gate, I was not expecting to begin with Defender Strange. I was anticipating that to be a later version. No, just right there. And this is a Doctor Strange who's very much in line with the Strange we saw in Infinity War, who's all like, I will let you die to save this stone. And he was going to straight up kill American Chavez right away, which kind of surprised me because a name like Defender Strange to me doesn't lend like I'm just gonna kill you and that's how I'm gonna win. No, but
But
it
he's
was
defending
interesting.
he's defending the multiverse. So
He was defending the multiverse. That's a good point, just not quite the way I anticipated it going.
Yes, I agree with that 100%. Yeah, that was shocking. Not shocking to see, but it definitely took me off guard. It set the stage for the rest of the movie. You knew this movie was going to be action packed. You knew it was going to be just like you said earlier, Chris. It was a quick movie because everything was going like beat for beat. Just all right, we're here now. We're here now. We're here, and you got that right from the beginning with Defender Strange and America Chavez.
I'm really glad we started there, mainly for the same reasons. I was also kind of thinking, because of what our expectations were as far as like the homework was for this movie, in-game, WandaVision, things like that, I thought it was going to try to ease you in, so that way then it can kind of get heavy-handed with a lot of the context of those shows, of the movies and whatnot. And no, it didn't. Jumped right into an action scene. Just like Brent, I expected Defender Strange to interact with our Doctor Strange. And to be completely honest, expectations, again, for I don't know why you're watching or listening to this if you haven't seen the movie. But if you haven't yet and you're just wanting to listen, your expectations on the cameos, chill down a little bit. And I honestly thought that, some of these other Doctor Strange were going to be interacting with the main 616 Doctor Strange. And so when they didn't, and technically they did in some capacity, and we'll talk about that later, I was really surprised at the whole, oh, I will kill you in order to defend the multiverse, because that is a sacrifice that I'm willing to make. And I do think that a lot of people I've heard say that the actress for America Chavez wasn't really their cup of tea, whether it be because she did not stand out all that well, or for some reason they didn't think the performance was that great. I thought she did really, really good.
Well, I know the biggest critique of her casting is that they changed the heritage of America Chavez. Because I think Gomez is Mexican and she's Boricua in the comics and Afro-Latina. So that I know that's the biggest critique that I've seen so far. I haven't really seen a whole lot on her performance, but it's just mainly a critique of Marvel for going in a different direction. So
Yeah. And saying with what we see about America Chavez as the character, I mean, again, we haven't seen this character in the MCU yet. They've decided, at least for right now, to go with her quote unquote original origin of where she was proposed as being someone from the multiverse with where she's from. But I thought from where she was portraying as someone who has these powers, seems to has no idea like how to control them yet at that point. She played exactly how I thought she would be playing as a person who is trying to not only survive, but also trying to figure out where their place is in this whole time, while trying to figure out a purpose for herself outside of trying to like escape everyone trying to get her and take her powers.
I thought she did a great job. I thought Xochitl Gomez played the part wonderfully. I have zero complaints. I'm excited to see her in the future. If somebody is upset about them changing her ethnicity, okay, I can't argue that. Like, I understand that. So fine. I'll give that one to him. Setting that aside just for a second, though, I thought she did a great job of what was asked of her to do. Yeah. She wasn't the lead of the movie. She wasn't supposed to be the lead of the movie. She didn't carry the movie, but that wasn't her intent. And I'm eager to see, presumably in the future, if we get that Young Avengers show that so many of us think is happening, or a Young Avengers movie or whatever, she would presumably be a part of it, and I welcome her inclusion.
Yeah. I really enjoyed her, in this movie, because of how we are, set the standard for this movie with the distrust of that Doctor Strange, and that is becomes a very big trope of this movie is, can Doctor Strange be trusted throughout the multiverse, it seems. And, the whole thing, I will also kind of jump into like the whole dream thing. Oh, why were you in my dream? I didn't know that they were going to be playing that out until they actually said it. I thought that was very cool. I sent a TikTok to both Brent and Joe today about Tony Stark having a dream in the beginning of Infinity War, and now how that kind of makes you think, how things will be played out with other characters in the future if they will reference that kind of thing.
I'll watch that TikTok in like 3 days when I finally watch my TikTok.
It is a cool concept of the idea that dreams are versions of yourself in the multiverse, and America saying, I don't dream, I'm the only one of me. And that kind of brings it up. But also how Stephen wakes up and then his whole interaction going to Christine's wedding, you get that doctor talking about, you're the superhero who made all this decision, and I've lost this, I've lost that. But I enjoyed what I like, and Brent and I talk about this a lot on many times on the show, is those quiet moments we have, those non-action moments in that discussion that Christine and Strange have at the reception. One, I wouldn't go telling the person who just got married that you loved him at that point. And
he didn't technically say "I love you."
No,
he
but
basically said, "I'll never get over you."
I'll never get over you. Yeah, but still, that's the thing you want to be saying at that point. Not necessarily, but when she asks him, "Are you happy?" I don't think any one of us believed when he said, "Oh yeah, I'm happy." We know he's not like his definition of happiness is not what he really is feeling, and that's another part of a theme in this movie is, where is Steven going to find happiness? Can he find happiness at that point?
Yeah.
But I also think
Steven's
arc struggles in this because it feels very similar to the first one. He's got to humble himself with the power, and I know it's getting into later acts and stuff, but it feels like we've had this storyline for Doctor Strange before, and you think with the mentorship role he took with Spider-Man, even though he doesn't remember that, like you'd think we'd see some of those residual factors.
Well, what I'll say to that, and originally Travis Hines was going to be joining us tonight. He's had internet issues, and so he may pop in, he may not. But I know one of the things he wanted me to bring up on this point was what he felt was Steven's biggest growth since Infinity War, where he is willing to give up Peter's life in an instant, and now where he will eventually, when we get to the end of the movie, just do what he can to save just one life.
Yeah.
At the same time, though, I do kind of agree that is kind of the exact same story or plot of character for Strange in the very first movie, because he is a little self-centered, and then he goes to Dormammu and he's willing to die over and over and over and over and over again order.
But I disagree. It's not the same. He's still learning a lesson. He's still improving as the superhero, as he was called at the beginning of this movie. But it's more like in the first movie, he's humbling himself and getting over his own ego. In this movie, he's accepting his life for what it is. He's accepting the loss of Christine in his life as a romantic pairing. He's accepting his role in that he can help mentor this younger person, and he is learning to move forward. He's also accepting the fact that he is problematic throughout the multiverse. Other universes have had problems with him. Defender Strange was going to kill America. We saw what happened with the Strange from the world of the Illuminati, which we haven't got to yet, but you know what I'm talking about. He's accepting he is also problematic and has his own dark sides that he has to keep at bay.
What do you all, move into our first action beat when we get America into the MCU proper, and the battle basically in the streets with Gargantos, even though interestingly enough, Gargantos is not named. It's just some big old octopus monster at that point. What'd y'all think of the action sequence there?
So at this point in time, this is where my friend leaned over to me and was like, we're watching a movie that was made in 2003. This is 2003 action. This is just a 2003 feel. And I'm like, I can't disagree with it. Some of the CGI was wonky to me, and it definitely had. I enjoyed the action. Don't get me wrong, but it definitely made me question what I was watching, and the fact that we've had 27 movies prior to this that just got better and better and better, and then this first act, the rest of the movie was fine. Like, I didn't have an issue with that. It was just this first act that I had trouble kind of getting into. Action beats aside. So,
well, I will say the technically second action beat, because the whole thing with Defender Strange was our first, but the second action
I had
beat,
the problem with that too, though, because when they were running, it definitely looked like they were running in place.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will also say the one thing that was picked apart before the movie even came out
Was the mage hands can't lift up a telephone pole like that?
No.
Sorry, D&D in my head.
Yeah. The one individual that was shown like 8 different times running past Doctor Strange. I know that that Brent, you've probably seen it all over TikTok, people complaining about it, but it was a part of the trailer. People are pointing it out that there's this one just random individual running away from the chaos, and the exact same actor runs past Doctor Strange like 4 times in 3 different shots. And because of all the TikToks complaining about it, I probably wouldn't have noticed it in the movie, but because there were so many people talking about it before the movie came out, that's something that I did notice. The CGI, I will agree on some things with you, Joe. It was very heavy, like with when they actually like poke the eye out and everything else. It was a little rough.
And again,
but
just this act. As soon as we get past
everything
this,
else,
it's fine.
Everything else was genuinely like I was so immersed into the movie.
Yeah.
If there was stuff, I couldn't tell.
They chose. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
It's like they chose to skimp on the CGI because of budgetary issues in the first act, because they know you're going to remember the second and third acts visuals more than the first acts, especially with a basic action sequence.
Mm-hmm. And especially, I definitely noticed my theater was pretty much sold out, and when the spear goes in the eye and they rip out the eye, there was definitely a couple of audible gasps in my theater.
That was
like,
me.
Oh, we're going there, right? I said, yep, here we go, Mr. Raimi, let's do this.
I could not possibly disagree about the CGI in the first act more.
Okay.
I thought it looked great. Now, later throughout the movie, there's a couple shots, which this gets me every time I see it, in every movie I see it, where it's green screen background daylight. Like, for some reason, that never looks right to me, or it's very rare, and that always kind of stands out. I mean, there's a couple shots like that, especially like around Wondergore, but in general, like that first act, like, I had no problems with the CGI. I thought Gargantua's looked gross, awesome. When his eye got ripped out, that was so freaking cool. I'm like, no, there's nothing. Like, I can't go with you guys at all on that stuff.
No,
and when he jumped off of that balcony, I'm like, well, that's super comic booky, super superhero-y. Like that, I loved it.
I mean, everything that Clay wants
I
to
love
go
that point.
supernatural and get kind of a little bit more crazy in the Batman. Hey, you got it with this one. You got a freak.
I got it all in Doctor Strange.
New York at that point.
I think something that really bugs me, and I didn't get a chance to talk about America Chavez's character, but like she uses like the foot stomp in this action sequence and like shows off a degree of, I guess, super strength, and like just drops like a piece of the balcony on Gargantua, but then is shocked later on when she uses it again.
Well, I don't think she realized she did, because it was already kind of crumbling, and I think she was just trying to hit it off to distract him. I don't think she realized that when she did that, she was exerting her power, because then when she does it later on in the cage, she is shocked. Both her and Christine are shocked. And
I don't know how you can't notice her power is not being used, because there's a giant star every time she uses her power.
I mean, to be fair, this particular star was significantly smaller while she's freaking out and on the run from this thing trying to catch her, that she's been on the run for so long. Like, she's just freaking out. Like, she's not a superhero yet. She's not trained yet. She's
she's
just
also
a kid.
said, yeah, she's also said that she can only use her power when she's scared. So she may know that she's scared and like via reflex do something, and then boom, something happens.
Yeah.
That's what I
So,
chopped it up as.
Brent, I have a question for you.
Okay.
So she said, and this might be getting a little ahead of ourselves, but she said she's been through 73 universes,
Yes.
counting 616. How long has this monster been chasing her through these universes for her to go through that many universes and not have any semblance of any idea?
We don't know
They
the
were
answer to
different
that.
monsters. They were
We don't,
different monsters.
we don't know the answer to that. For starters, this wasn't the same monster that chased her from when she was with Defender Strange.
Right there.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, she's talked about not controlling her powers. The first time her powers triggered, she was scared of a bee or whatever a bee was in her world. It's just panic that something scared her. It pops up. She goes through it. She gets sucked in. It's not controlled. That doesn't mean all 73 was times that Wanda sent a monster after her.
Yeah, that didn't happen until here more recently. So
It was certainly implied to be a more recent development.
correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
So I guess what I'm thinking is like, because she debuts her power and she's like maybe 11 with the bee, if that, and now
I
she's like
think even
I was
younger
like
than that.
Yeah.
9, 8 maybe.
8 or 9. I was trying to give like a better range because for me, I'm like, you spend 8 years doing this, and I guess like the powers thing, I find it hard to believe that she couldn't figure out other than it activated every time she was scared. I thought that was just lazy writing.
I mean, if you feel that way, you feel that way. I guess I personally, I don't know. I don't know how hard it is to come to grasp with multidimensional powers that happen when you punch portals around. So,
But if she's
I'm
been
like,
doing it, if she's been doing it for 10 years,
just never on purpose. Now, that said, let's just jump to the very end of the movie just for a split second. She's training with the other sorcerers, right? Now,
Right.
their powers and their portals are different, but in general, I would expect the next time we see her to have a better grasp of her dimensional powers.
yeah.
Because maybe I'm wrong, but I would think that what she learns from Wong and everybody else would be applicable, that she could put towards learning her own powers, and probably Wong would help her with her own powers.
Because in the end of the movie, with Wanda is another part that I'm just like, it's the full arc where I'm just like, really? You can all of a sudden do that now?
Let's get there in due time. I got some
I
stuff to
know.
talk about
I'm
too,
just.
So Stu Little is in the chat saying, given her mother's were lost when she first used it, I can imagine an aversion to trying to use it intentionally as a natural result. So that's a good point there, Stu. So let's kind of move forward to, she's talked about, what's going on. These demons are chasing her. They want her powers. He doesn't know who's over them. And that kind of tips off to Strange. Well, I know someone with magic, and we get bringing back Wanda.
I want to talk about this because I did the big no and I drank 2 large cups of an alcoholic beverage and then a Dr. Pepper before the movie. And I know, Brett. I know. But this at
You
this
saw
moment,
this movie at 3:00 your time.
yeah. What's wrong
It's
with
5:00 somewhere, I guess.
I mean, I was at Alamo Draft House where they serve alcohol. So
they
I was
serve
like,
it, but they don't require it, rookie.
So as soon as they said, "Oh, I think I know somebody who we could talk to," and my idea was, okay, well, this seems like it's going to be a little bit of a low point, which, to be completely honest, was probably the best part to go. But I did come back just in time for the actual reveal, which was really, really cool. I will say this was probably like the biggest, like, oh shit moment, like, to start off with, is the fact that, like, they're talking and, they're talking about Chavez, but they, of course, did not say her name. And that's when Scarlet Witch, Wanda says, "Oh, well, just bring America here. She's lost people. I've lost people. We can, we can bond in that way, but I can also protect her." And then it gets really quiet. And she's like, shit, you didn't say her name, did you?
Well,
I was like,
that well, that's and then even jumping back a little bit at that point when we see Wanda, I already figured it was a dream at that point, but you get or Tommy and Billy, you get the little Wanda Vision theme in the background,
Love
Yeah,
that.
that was
Love
great.
that.
Yep.
the little chime. I loved
Yep.
it. I loved it.
It was good because when we saw in the first trailer when Steven kind of brushed off, I'm not here to talk about Westview at that point. We're like, oh God, I don't know how much they're gonna brush this aside because it's kind of a big part of that point. This is probably one of these things that if you haven't watched WandaVision, yeah, you can appreciate this movie, but you're not gonna really get the whole dynamic of why Wanda is going.
Why she becomes the way she becomes in this movie. Yeah.
But I remember in the trailer, I remember in our breakdown, I said you look at exactly how they're talking when they're talking, and then you get that line where everything switches. Steven's still in the same stuff. I said, this is a whole creation. And you know what? I was glad I was right because that was the freakiest thing just to see that turn immediately when he said this isn't real, and it turns all red at that point. # Mephisto confirmed.
I loved it when he says, I was going to say that this smelled real. And she goes, well, it is real. And, they're trying to make you think, well, she's truly like farming or whatever, right? No, like she created this. Like she is that powerful. And yeah, as soon as she said America's name, I was like, oh, the rumors are going to be true. Like it's been heavily speculated. Like Dallin's saying here, wasn't expecting Wanda to be the villain at all. Like that was heavily speculated. I expected for her to be a bit of an antagonist at the minimum. We would probably get like a Doctor Strange vs. Wanda fight sequence. I did not know the whole movie would go that way. To be fair, I was avoiding everything I could at all cost. I did not see tons of cameo stuff that was put in TV spots. Horrible decision marketing there.
Yep.
I didn't see all those until like 2 hours ago when I purposely searched them out after I'd seen the movie. I was shocked like that they went that fast. And I was like, oh my God, she really is the villain.
Yeah.
So just random question because I haven't seen the TV spots. Which ones were in the TV spot? I know Haley
we'll get
Carter.
there when we actually talk about the
yeah, let's go into that part.
Yeah. But I will.
Sorry, Katie.
I will say this though, when the fact that they actually made her the villain and she unveiled the true look of what that orchard was, and you get the look of the Darkhold. He's really surprised. You then get the idea of him actually being, or you get the idea that she is being possessed by the Darkhold. I will say this. I love the fact that they actually made her the villain. I didn't think that they were actually going to do it. I was on the same boat of Snell when we were talking about this in our chats of like, I really hope that they don't just like push everything aside. Everything's hunky dory. And, she's, a hero again. They made her the villain. I loved it. There were some choices in that choice of making her the villain that I still needed to see in this movie that I didn't. We will get to that later. But I love that she was the villain in this movie.
But it's not only that I went into this expecting her to be a villain, despite all the rumors, just because of way we ended WandaVision with her in the Darkhold, and her mission, her goal was to get her kids back. That when I necessarily didn't make the connection that she was sending the demons and the monsters after America when that it seems obvious at that point, but it's just like I didn't make that connection necessarily. But I was like, okay, now I loved it how like she flips on a dime at that point and just says, you're gonna give me America in the next X amount of hours, and you were dumb enough to tell me where she is, or I'm going to burn everything to the ground that you'll ever hold dear at that point. And I'm like, I believe this woman, not only from my experience reading her in the comics of how much of a level, quote unquote, mutant she is at that point. But man, when she goes in and goes to Carmeltage and just, I mean, they stand their ground for a little bit, but man, you see how
finds her way in.
Powerful she is going against all these masters of the mystic arts.
So I'm seeing this again tomorrow with the family. My girlfriend loved WandaVision. Loved it. I think she's going to be mad because of what Wanda is in this movie. and understandably so. Like the way WandaVision ended, and how it broke Wanda, and seeing that story, it connected to her, and then seeing her as a villain here, she is not going to be happy whatsoever, and I feel bad, but at the same time, like, I was right there with you guys. Like, I didn't expect her to be the villain in this movie. I expected it to be some other monster, and then her and Strange are working together, and then somehow they do fight at the end because she sees a way to get her kids back. I didn't expect it to be this. So, yeah.
Katie's raising her hand. That's interesting.
I hate interrupting people. Okay, no. So I don't necessarily mind how Wanda was portrayed through the whole movie. But I think I agree with All in the Game here. He said was enough time spent showing her being corrupted by the Darkhold, and I wanted another 10 to 15 minutes on there. I don't think there's enough transition time to show the accuracy of the transition. Literally, all we get is Wanda has a dream of somebody else or another universe where she has her kids, and that's it. And we just see her break down about that. And I complained about this when they brought up Disney Plus and they said all the TV shows and everything are going to be connected. I hate that for people because my sister didn't watch WandaVision.
Thank you.
Because she can't afford Disney Plus. Like, she has to pick streaming services and stuff. Mm-hmm. So she's not going to get that connection. And I hate that.
And I will say Stuart Little is talking in the chat also about like how much time has passed since she has the Darkhold and everything else. But here's the problem that I have with that. This is a show. This is a tell, don't show situation where you get the vocal, you get the dialogue of Wong saying, this is not Wanda, this is the Scarlet Witch. So there is the difference of like, hey, the Darkhold is really Scarlet Witch, while Wanda is still hidden in there somewhere.
Yeah.
What I wanted to see was the struggle. Is Wanda still there? Is this actually something that is actually taking her over? Or is this the new Scarlet Witch as we know it? You know, that's what I kind of wanted to see, and I didn't get that. That is something that I will say is something that I wanted in this movie. Abby, my lovely wife, is saying, I loved how the streaming show storyline continued in the big screen. It's not a perfect transition, but she does agree with Katie.
Okay, all right. Let me address some of this.
See, Brent disagrees with everything I said.
The timeline part, Stu Little he's on the right track, though it's actually longer than 8 months, but he's on the right track there. Yeah. So WandaVision starts 3 weeks after the blip. Okay, so after Endgame. The whole thing takes place over a few days. We don't know how far the credit scene of WandaVision, where she is already being corrupted by the Darkhold, we don't know how far after that is. Let's say it's within a couple weeks, though. Okay, so we're a month or so after Endgame. All of Far From Home happens, right? Which takes place roughly 8 months after. Spider-Man No Way Home happens, goes through a whole another school year, basically.
Yep.
Or at least, well, that's not true. Not a whole school year, but it gets all the way to Christmas time. Far From Home is like the end of the year. No Way Home gets to around Christmas time. It's well over 8 months at this point. You're clocking more than a year at this point. So she's basically been corrupted by more than a year, not accounting for we don't know how much time has passed between No Way Home and Multiverse of Madness, so I get the impression it wasn't that far. So, yes, there is something they could have showed us there in that timeline, but all they would have shown was like her... I don't think it was necessary because there's so much more to show of where she's at now versus like how are they going to show us? How are they going to show us that she's getting more and more crazy and going more and more off the deep end? Like she's reading the pages faster. She's starting to listen to it more.
Well, they did show something in the second act, which we will get into. When it came to the cameos, there was something specifically that they showed that I was like, oh, maybe they could have shown it like that. Now, that is a creative choice, but...
This won't work for Katie's sister because she didn't see WandaVision. Katie, profile sharing is a thing.
I tried. She doesn't want to break the rules.
Then that's on her. That is completely on her because you gave her a way to do it. But like even in WandaVision, Agatha's telling her, you don't know what you're going to be unleashing by becoming and embracing the Scarlet Witch. Agatha is warning her as far back as within a month after Endgame that she doesn't know what she's unleashing. And Agatha is far more knowledgeable about the Scarlet Witch than Wanda is herself. Like, I think it all tracks, not to mention we already see, like, we see the black around the fingers and stuff that Agatha had going on. We see that going on with Wanda. To me, it's a great transition. It definitely fits. It is a little bit of an issue for people who didn't see WandaVision. I agree. But this tells me that they're telling us the shows matter. This isn't some Jeff Loeb style, it's all connected because we pretend it is. It's actually all connected. It does actually matter. So you might want to consider the $7 to be subscribed to Disney Plus versus all the other streamers. You know, if you care about knowing the movies, you're going to need to spend that $7.
And I do like what we're seeing in the chat right here, saying, you know, so how long was Wanda been hunting Chavez during the timeline? That's an interesting one that, you know, I don't think we have a full answer for necessarily, but it's something to ponder. How long has she known about America's existence?
You can guess a little bit. Sorry, Katie, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No, just to kind of like finish up that conversation, I think for the one of the MCU's longest running before this female heroes, you need to spend a little bit more time on character development for the full movie effect instead of just jumping right into it and just like acting like everyone's going to understand the 8 months. I just wanted a little more character development there.
Go ahead,
go ahead, Joe. You were going to say
I'm
something
good
about
I'm changing the subject. Are you going to continue with Katie's conversation?
I was just going to say,
go ahead.
you know, we all discussed in our GUA chat when we actually learned that these shows were going to be MCU canon. You know, we were like, okay, well, how heavily are we going to rely on these shows? I think this is the first movie that is, directly connected to Disney Plus. Is it not? I believe.
Yeah,
theatrical
right.
The biggest one.
Yeah, I mean, what other movie would be connected to a Disney Plus show?
No, you're absolutely right. This is the
this
first
is-
one. The first one.
So
First one.
between WandaVision, which was the first one, and the most recent one being Moon Knight, like, it has been a whole year plus since WandaVision.
And most people don't go back and rewatch these things.
Unless you're Brent.
Unless you are true diehards. But I will say, like, we didn't know how, because the other movies weren't really referencing anything. So we're like, okay, well, maybe they're just small little pockets of things. And you can assume and you can not assume, you know, it's just whatever. But your Brent is absolutely right. After seeing this movie, this is the 100%. Okay, check that box. I need Disney Plus if I want to watch the rest of these movies.
We have known that this movie was going to follow up WandaVision since 2019. We have known that long that Wanda was a part of this movie. None of the other movies that have come out have an organic. They don't even have an inorganic tie-in to anything else. Like, there's like, for Spider-Man, there's really no real way, unless you think you're going to see Spider-Man swinging across Rockefeller Center, which was never going to happen.
The next one will probably be Quantumania. That'll be the next one.
The next one that has a tie-in to one of the Disney Plus shows?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe we need to get a little closer there, but you got to think that's got to be right because of He Who Remains, King, whatever they're going to call him. Like, nothing else so far has been that way. It would not have surprised me there wasn't if Loki had a tie-in with this show, because time travel, multiverse.
I was kind of surprised it didn't.
But and he had been rumored for it too.
We'll talk about it at the end. We'll talk about that at the end.
But like it just, to me, it doesn't. It all just makes sense. Like, there's been nowhere to reference really Falcon and the Winter Soldier, right? There's been no real place to reference Hawkeye or certainly not Loki in this case, outside of possibly this. What if? All right, we could argue it was referenced. So, I don't know. Like, the big lesson here is these shows are connected. If you care about being 100% current, you have to watch these. If you don't, they'll still give you the bare bones basics. The basics, I think people can understand. Wanda lost her kids. I didn't see that story, but they're telling me she had kids, she lost kids, she's trying to get them back. If you can't pick that up, you're just being obtuse. And so I think people will know that.
I'm probably the most average MCU viewer of the group, so I'm just trying to represent a different perspective.
No, totally.
Absolutely.
It's
I'm
totally
just saying
fair.
We
It's
need
totally
that.
fair.
it's there.
Good. Yeah.
The last thing I want to mention, just because again, a big Sam Raimi horror person, the ending before they get transported out of there is, Strange putting Wanda into that kind of glass trap at that point, and her going through, and they're covering
That
up
was
all,
badass.
Wong and everyone just covering up all the reflection. Then she just comes out like the freaking girl
That
from
was
the Ring.
Yep, that was
And
creepy.
just
And awesome.
that was far out. I'm sorry. That was really, really cool.
That was badass.
This was a horror movie all around. I did not expect it to be as horror filled as it was. And again, I mean, I'm not a huge Sam Raimi fan in the sense I have not seen everything he has directed, but I know his background. I thought there was going to be some parts of this movie that was going to have some horror elements, but from beginning to end was horror. And I really enjoyed that for somebody who does like horror movies.
Yeah, it was just cool to see that, because it makes me always wonder, saying Derrickson and Marvel parted ways for creative differences. What was he going to do? Was he going to go harder than what Raimi proposed, or was it going to be
That was the impression I got, is he wanted to go even more into that horror realm, and honestly, this was about as horror as I personally would want it to go, because I'm not a big fan of horror. Like it's just
Yeah.
I respect the genre. It's not a genre I gravitate towards, but I could appreciate the jump scares and stuff like that.
I hated the jump scares. Matt was making fun of me the whole time.
Oh, my wife hurt my hand grabbing it a couple times. Like, she literally hurt my hand at one time. You have to let go of me. Stop.
Well, we're gonna move on from Act 1 as they get transported through the multiverse, going through those lovely images. Oh,
Living Tribunal.
No,
Did
yes.
anybody catch that?
What's
Yes,
that?
Yes.
The Living Tribunal. Like,
Yes,
it was a quick flash. I'm like, what the hell?
I caught that. I was like, oh, I'm like, Leo.
Wasn't that the
Yep.
first one that they saw?
Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Living
That was
Tribunal.
Catch
awesome.
Mustafar.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Mustafar. I think it is a callback to What If also, but I do believe it was Mustafar. So
One of the
hope
what
that it
ifs
just-
goes to Mustafar too, right? Allegedly.
Yeah.
It sure looks awfully suspicious.
You get him going through the Savage Land, animation, paint. I love that callback later on, saying, "Yeah, you don't want to go there. Food's really rough there."
There was a black and white one, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, there was.
Was that supposed to? I'm
Spider-Man Noir.
Yeah, like I'm channeling Taylor here from Geekverse.
I know.
Like I had the same thought.
Nicolas Cage.
I had the same thought.
Yep. But yeah, so Wong is left behind with whoever's left at Carmotage.
Not a lot.
Yeah, not a lot. So we're going to take our next ad break before we head into what everyone's been chomping at the bit with this next act is talking about our introduction to the Illuminati and everything like that. So get ready, hold your horses. We're going to have some fun. So again, listeners, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We're going to have those ads. Sorry if they repeat themselves. We don't choose them. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. So, all right. Well, we go to Earth 838. And I'll say this, it's interesting now we have officially renamed the MCU to Earth 616
Yeah,
when it was
wasn't
Earth
that?
19999. So
Wasn't too happy with that one, honestly. I get
I'll
it.
live.
I get why they
I'll
did
live.
it. Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
live.
But it's just like, come on. 616 is comics.
So kind of we can jump right into the Illuminati, or we can talk about a few things before.
I want to talk about Bruce Campbell real quick. That
Okay.
was a fun scene. I mean, and it fit perfectly for him, I would have, I'll be honest,
We
I
all
would
knew
have loved.
he was coming. We all knew
Well,
he was
sure.
coming.
I would have loved to, in all honesty, seen Paul Hugan, who the Doctor Strange from '78. That would have been fun to see him show up. That would have been a good spot for him.
Considering I rewatched that movie, or
Yes.
I watched it the first time, I agree, but that was not a
But
good movie.
honestly, anyway, it was a great role for Bruce Campbell. Him just popping up and just being Bruce Campbell. I loved it. I love seeing it.
who pays for food, right?
Like when that
I kind of believed her for a moment. I really did.
when that scene happened, I looked at my friend and we're both like, "Yeah, that's a really crazy idea, huh?" Sorry, that's more real life terms, but whatever. Let's continue.
I enjoyed the cameo as well. It was again very campy, very silly, very on the nose for anybody who knows Raimi.
Yep.
And just like, channeling Taylor here, just knowing the fact that every other Bruce Campbell appearance in the Spider-Man movies is also a true MCU canon character somewhere out there is actually kind of cool to think about also.
I think I was just a little disappointed that Ted Raimi didn't show up. I would have loved to have seen him pop up at some point somewhere in the movie.
One thing I do want to say is I'm so glad we did get a moment with just Strange in America, walking and talking, and just
this was another slow beat I really enjoyed. Yeah,
Gave you a chance to breathe.
The memory lane for both of them.
That was
even
really
though
cool.
Strange, it doesn't bring anything new. It's a loss for him of what he could have had at that point, but also seeing America and what she's kind of gone through and just getting those glimpses, but them finding that connection with each other. And again, it's another person after dealing with Spider-Man, with Peter, who he doesn't remember anymore, but now having to take care of this one and wrestle with the fact of what am I going to do with this kid?
Yeah.
I was expecting some robot or something to pop out and ask them for money. It's like, okay, you can look at your memories at a discounted rate. Neither of them paid for anything, bunch of crooks.
Like the pizza
Well,
balls.
she already stole pizza balls, yeah. So
She did.
but I will say, kind of moving forward here to the statue, seeing Mordo, I was very intrigued by that relationship and that very first interaction because I genuinely thought that was the Mordo from like the 616 universe in the trailers.
See, I called that one. It wasn't.
You called it.
You called that one a long
ago.
time ago. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I really enjoyed all of that. The one thing that they didn't necessarily explain, which, I mean, again, you kind of just need it to have fodder for Wanda to kill off or whatever, was the Ultron bots. They were just there.
Mm-hmm.
That was the only thing that I kind of wish was like, it could have just been a throwaway line or something, but they were just there and it felt kind of odd.
Superior
And
Tom
that would've-
Cruise was on the cutting room floor.
Yeah. They cut Tom Cruise, right?
And I think the Ultron bots would have been another good point to put in development for Wanda because that, like, her brother was killed by Ultron. So that would have been a good point to kind of maybe have her stumble there and just kind of think back to him and maybe draw back to a Wanda connection versus full-blown Scarlet Witch.
I could see that.
Good thought. Yeah.
What did you think with Wanda at this point? We're kind of going back and forth with Wanda, basically torturing Wong for information at that point, using the Darkhold, finding out that the Darkhold, it gets destroyed, and you say, well, that's not the real Darkhold, and they go out there. Like, she's trying to get to this dream walking idea where she is taking over Earth 818838. Their Wanda at that point. I mean, that was some interesting stuff.
What's interesting, really, though, is that she was dreamwalking and didn't get, and this is jumping to the third act, didn't have the demons coming after her, but when Strange
Because it wasn't a dead...
Well, yeah, sure, but even that, I believe I remember him reading or saying something that he can still get in trouble. Well, the Illuminati was talking about how when their Strange was dreamwalking, it destroyed and there was problems.
Yeah,
with
but
it.
that was just the actual interaction of dreamwalking, and it caused the incursion. There was nothing about the
Yeah.
demons. The demons were
Okay.
solely due
specifically
to the
because
dead
of
body.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
Katie's
Okay.
absolutely right. Yep.
Because
Okay,
in the
fair
third
enough.
act, they do say that.
Fair enough.
But
Okay.
for the cameos, though, let's go
Here we
ahead
go.
and jump right into that.
Rip off that band-aid.
With everybody, unfortunately, like I said, I saw everybody, but the two loudest and like audience, moments that I had in the theater was Mr. Fantastic
Yep.
and of course Charles Xavier were the two that had a really big woohoo. Everybody was going crazy over those two. I will be honest, John Krasinski being there again, I saw the leak photo, but I honestly didn't believe it. I was like, wow, they actually pulled it off. And we had heard and seen people talk on Twitter, hey, it's actually going to happen. But they were also saying, oh, Logan's going to be in here. Ghost Rider's going to be in here.
Deadpool's gonna be in here.
Deadpool's going to be in here. Which I will say, I was still holding out for Deadpool
A little bit.
and I'm kind of disappointed that he didn't show up.
Maybe
but
he's in
I
one of the
know-
worlds that they jumped through. We just didn't see.
I
him.
was honestly expecting that, to be honest, but it didn't happen.
I'll tell you what made me, and I was telling this to Travis Snell and Brent this morning, is like, you see that chair pull up and you hear, and it is in the credits, credited as X-Men 97 theme.
I saw that. Yes.
And the yellow chair, I was like, all right, I get partial credit, and Joe gets partial credit for calling the
Black Bolt.
Inhumans of Anson in there. So
I actually had to go back and search that conversation in the feed, and I'm like, oh heck, I did actually say this. Okay, cool. But when John Krasinski showed up, like, okay, so they're showing everybody. They showed Peggy Carter, no reaction in my theater. They showed not Monica,
Maria.
Thank you, Maria Rambeau, Captain Marvel, no reaction. They showed Black Bolt, and I'm like, oh, that's okay. Is that? It is.
that's comic accurate costume there.
Still no
Yes, it
reaction. They show Mr. Fantastic. I hear a couple like, huh, and I scream, dude! And this is where my friend is looking at me, watching my reaction. And then Charles comes out, and everybody's just screaming. So it was interesting how that rolled out.
In my theater, some guy audibly said, "Holy effing S!" out loud. Everyone said it. Said, "That's Reed effing Richards."
I love what they did with these cameos. I love their take on the Illuminati. Every single one of these members, with the exception of Reed, has played this character before in a different version of it, making me think that Krasinski really is going to be our Reed Richards going forward. If not, people are going to be pissed. He looked fantastic.
really hope he's
His
not
suit
wearing-
was
so
awesome.
great.
That
I
line,
don't like the suit.
Yeah.
that line that is said makes it thing that didn't you strange saying didn't you chart in the 60s?
I love that.
Meaning that the Fantastic Four have existed since the 60s, have gotten lost in space, and will be returning. So the Fantastic
means-
Four confirmed.
We're going to get all these think pieces, and people are like, "Oh,
Cowards.
why has there been no? There won't be cowards because they
They're
were
lost in
disappeared."
space.
But it's like, why has there been no reference to them before? No one's ever heard of them before, and it's like, I wish some people would use some common sense with that complaint because they didn't have the legal authority to make those references before. That's why. Like, people understand this, right? Like,
Yeah.
what they can't.
No,
I
they
heard
don't.
people talk about today. They can't have been around in the '60s, or
Now,
surely
do you-
we would have heard of them before.
But Doctor
do you
Strange was
think-
referenced in Winter Soldier, but he didn't show up for another couple
They
movies.
had the legal rights to do that at that time. That's the
correct.
difference.
But they referenced him, but nothing came about it. Yes,
had
I
no
agree
legal
with
right
what you're
to
saying. I
reference
agree with
Reed
what you're saying,
Richards.
Brett.
All right.
Okay.
Here's an actual crazy question, and I think Katie will get a good laugh out of this one. But do you think Feige will ever get so drunk with power that he will eventually have like a CGI reference inserted in to an older movie?
Like
Like
Star Wars style.
yeah.
Call Lucas a Lucas at that point.
I mean,
Because I thought about it. I thought about it when this argument started to come up in some of my other Discord chats talking
call
about this
fiction.
movie.
Yeah, I'll call fiction, and here's why I'll call fiction on it. I don't want to go too down this rabbit hole. Stealing from possible topics of Star Wars. Those were done by Lucas. Those are basically, for the most part, his films at that point. He's a story writer, executive, whatever at that point. Feige, I don't see him putting that in at that point. I think that's not his purpose. I think because he's accepted so many different times where canon, timeline, things like that have gone wobbly at points, and just like we messed up.
And I will say he kind of did it in a better way with Endgame. He was able to go back to those points and reference certain things.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily Lucas' style, but it is his own way. Just wanted
close.
to throw that out there.
No, it's not. Not even the same thing.
Who shot first? I don't even know anymore.
I don't
But-
care.
Still Han.
I will go ahead and say this because I did already say it, but I legit saw Mr. Fantastic suit and I thought it looked like a spray painted Deadpool costume. I did not think it looked great.
For me, I lost my shit when Krasinski was revealed. My theater lost it more when Patrick Stewart came out. But I was like, oh my gosh, it's Krasinski. No, I didn't go that long. But I was super excited to see him because that has been probably my number one fan cast that I've wanted to see. The suit while he was sitting looked garbage, primarily because it just looked like his head was too big for his body. And so it definitely looked over animated, I think, in my opinion. But everything else there was cool. Now, can I ask the question about the TV spots?
Yeah. So in the TV spots, I know the first one was Captain Carter. They showed.
Okay.
And I believe the second one was Xavier.
Xavier's chair.
Yep.
Yeah.
We already knew about Xavier, but now we're seeing the chair from the animated series.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
just to be
a
clear,
clearer
I think it's a variant
Yes.
of the animated X-Men Xavier. I don't actually think it's the X-Men 97 Xavier.
Allegedly, Patrick Stewart is not coming back for that, so
I
I
would-
didn't think he was going to. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's whatever.
I would hope not, specifically because I enjoy the Charles Xavier character from the previous X-Men movies. So I want to see Xavier have a long run in the MCU. And
I definitely want a new Xavier for the
Yeah.
616.
Agreed.
Yeah.
But we got the like mind waves from the animated
Yeah.
show,
Yeah,
which was
that was
amazing.
very, very cool. We got the sound waves from Black Bolt.
Yes,
whenever
yes.
The
Oh my-
flashback.
Ooh.
When
Oh,
they
that
showed the
flashback
death
was-
of Doctor
looked great.
Strange. I will say I kind of laughed at Thanos just like laying there like with the thing
Yeah.
just like right through his chest. I kind of laughed, but like the whole idea, and I alluded to it earlier, the fact that like it seems like the biggest threat, and this is what the Illuminati said, the biggest threat in the multiverse is Doctor Strange.
Well,
That was a little
especially-
bit of a twist.
Well, especially I didn't even think I got really excited when they used the word incursion. I was like, oh, okay,
Mhm,
now
yes.
we are confirming where we are actually, after all the hints, after all the things, we are heading officially towards Secret Wars.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the Russos have talked about Secret Wars for a long time, and I always kind of thought they meant the original. This makes me think they mean the Hickman Secret
Yeah.
Wars. Which,
Yeah.
all right, sign me
Fine.
up.
Yeah.
I'm in.
So what's
That
the
was a good one.
difference for a novice?
So, okay, for the novice, all the heroes were plucked in the 1985 version. All the heroes were plucked away to go into this place called Battle World to battle it out, and for whoever's superior. Hickman's Secret Wars was basically, as they talked about in the movie, Earth basically multiverses basically smashing into each other, and whoever comes out on top, that Earth survives. Well, guess what? It came down to one Earth, two Earths, Ultimate Universe, Earth 616. They both ended up destroying each other, and all these alternate beings, heroes, villains on this one existence called Battle World. And I mean, imagine every kind of variant version that have ever been thought about is here.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very cool stuff.
Yeah.
I loved everybody's appearance here. I will agree. I believe it was Dylan on the Geekverse cast that said that these characters very much looked like they were all probably shot separately and then spliced together. One thing that was very noticeable up until the point where they're actually in the fight sequence that they're all a part of. Well, fight sequence that they're all a part of is Mr. Fantastic's shots are always by himself. So that's what made me think, oh, he probably did this on his own, with whatever team was with him, and they were just like, yeah, let's do this quick cameo. So that was a little something that I did notice, but I really love the explanation of Strange being the biggest, danger of the multiverse. It did have a little bit of twist for me that I was like, oh, that's interesting. The lie that the Illuminati had for that world, with him like, oh, he died saving the entire world. What did you guys think about that?
I liked it that, originally I thought that that was this universe's Defender Strange, when this is a completely different Strange that, that went down there. And, they're kind of, I talked to this as a history teacher, the bigger the lie, the more, the lie, if the legend becomes fact, you print the legend. And the legend, as Carter says, the world needed one hero to kind of take it on at that point. And Strange looked to be the most, I guess, on that world, the most beloved. So let him die swinging at that point.
Kind of felt like the opposite of the end of The Dark Knight, when they let Batman pretend to be the bad guy because that's what Gotham needed at the time. Here, they're letting this Strange, they're telling the lie for him to pretend to be the good guy, if you will, because that's what the world needed.
Yeah. It was great. It's believable with what this world what had already happened. Like, they went through the Infinity War of sorts and came out on top. Sort of. This is also after Strange had, while he was dreamwalking, destroy the universe. So,
Oops.
Yeah.
Besides the cameos, I want to talk about the evisceration of the Illuminati by Wanda. That Wanda just coming in with, and this is Raimi in the sense, not only does Raimi know how to stretch a buck at that point, because that's how he made his movies at that point. Man, she's covered in what looks like blood when it's really just
it's oil
goop of all the Ultrons, but it looks just like it's blood at that point too.
Mm-hmm.
But she's coming in just and just a Black Bolt. What mouth? What are you talking about? And just collapses on his head. I was like, oh, this is going to get bad fast.
Again, this was a lot darker than I thought it was going to go.
Yeah.
And I told people with just a tad more tweaks to this fight, rated R.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about this point taking my kids.
Yep.
My daughter, my 15-year-old, we tried to take her to go see Everything Anywhere All at Once, and we had to leave midway through because the blood looked too real for her. She got a little queasy. The good thing about Marvel, though, is they always have the blood looks a little like black or darker, so they try to keep that PG-13 rating. And this scene begins the more dive into the horrific thing, the horrific stuff. Black Bolt getting his head imploded was very dark. Mr. Fantastic becoming string cheese.
And then his head popping.
And then his head pop, very dark. Later on, when we get the demon stuff, very dark. I'm like,
Captain Carter getting cut, like Darth Mauled.
Yeah, but we didn't see that. It was all implied.
But I'll tell you what. But right before, she eviscerates Mr. Fantastic, saying, "Do you have kids? Yes. Do they have a mother? Yes. well, then they'll be cared
At least they'll
for.
have somebody
This
to look after
and I was
them.
like,
Yeah.
oh, it's over. It's
That's
over.
a dark line.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens and what parts I have to cover their eyes for.
What did y'all think about, like, the longest battle was basically between, Carter, but for most of the extent, Captain Marvel, Maria Rambeau. What did y'all think of that kind of back and forth with her and Maria?
I mean, Maria looked awesome.
She looks wonderful.
Captain Mara's powers, I've always thought they visually were really cool looking. And just, we know how powerful at least Carol is. We got to presume Maria's in that class, if not more powerful. So it just really highlights where Wanda is at right now.
And I do like that overall. I think Maria was able to somewhat back up her claims to the point where she was telling Doctor Strange, "Oh, we'll deal with Wanda." She was the last one standing, so I'm saying bravo to her. But I mean, in the end, Wanda did kick some ass. I absolutely enjoyed it. I was not expecting Carter to be cut in half.
Well, what really sucks
like-
is that she's like, I could do this all day, and then
I love
no,
that.
you
I
can't.
love that.
Yeah.
That all day lasted 5 more minutes. The one thing that really kind of, I'm not gonna say upset me, but kind of like shocked me a little bit was Xavier.
Yeah.
He goes in, tries to reach the Wanda of 838 that 616 Wanda is taking control of, to try and free her, and then we see 616 Wanda taking over the mind again, and then coming back out and just snapping his neck. I'm like,
When freaking Kal-El
That
on
was-
Zod.
oh,
So, but see, this was the part that I was alluding to when we were talking about the possible struggle between the Darkhold and Wanda. This whole mindscape type thing.
but
I
that
feel like
is
that could have
838. It could have happened for what, 616 Wandas?
Yeah.
Hmm.
In the sense of her being controlled by the Darkhold or being taken over by the Darkhold, I feel like they could have done something like that to show that there was a struggle, because overall, I think majority of us would say that Wanda pre-Darkhold is not an evil murdering psychopath,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So I can't see her making the exact same choices that she did throughout this entire movie without the Darkhold. So I would assume that there would be some sort of struggle, and I didn't see that. And so when I saw it visually, this happen in this mindscape, I was like, oh well, they could have done that. Of course they didn't, but that's what I was saying earlier. So, but I did love this visual of Charles walking through this door. Again, another jump scare that almost got me, but I was like, something's gonna pop out here. Someone's gonna pop out in that hole. And Wanda of 838. You were one lazy woman. You could have crawled out of that hole at that point. She was
Clay does not
halfway
speak
through.
for this note.
She was halfway through. She could have gotten through there, but it was wicked. I was not expecting the neck break, and it was amazing.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
absolutely was. You're right. It would have been interesting to have seen something similar like that with the Darkhold. Of course, the Darkhold, I think it worked with this Wanda because we knew there was another Wanda who was overpowering her, so there was something to lock in. It's like there needed to be, I feel like, something sentient to take over something sentient there, which is the Darkhold. I don't know. Maybe? I don't know. Interesting idea.
Katie, you were going to jump in.
I really enjoyed the fight scene. There was a lot of times where I was shocked with what was happening. I really enjoyed seeing Atwell again, Captain Carter. I thought that was she's great. So I just love seeing her get to continue doing MCU stuff. The fight was absolutely brutal. Matt said it was his favorite point of the movie. So
I'd love to see Haley Atwell back for like a Disney Plus show or something. Like give her her own project as
Give her
Captain
robot
Carter.
legs.
Live
Robot
action, like just that would be
Working on
awesome.
it.
Works for all.
Let's make it a variant of this Captain Carter, so we don't have to do the Darth Maul legs. But yeah,
But I did want to bring something up because during the whole conversation with the Illuminati, they did bring up the dream walking, which did show the spell of Wanda doing it for this other Wanda. So I do like the fact that they did make a point to say, like, not out loud with these exact words, but like Wanda is a what is it called?
Nexus
Point?
Nexus being.
Yeah, a Nexus being where she has a variant in every single Earth or every single universe.
Mhm.
So I do enjoy that. But one thing that my uncle brought up to me today talking about this movie, and I would like you guys' answer, and this kind of just goes overall on the movie. Why couldn't Wanda just make her kids again?
I was thinking about that earlier, and I
Yeah.
think she could, but I think this is me projecting because they don't answer that question. To me, it was more like she probably doesn't think that would have been real at this point. Like she needed to get ones that she didn't make because she just let them go before. Maybe she doesn't want to make a new hex projecting. I think that's a question that probably should have been answered.
It's one of those ideas, like to your point, like when it makes you bring up a good point that she knows it's fake, but then I bring up the point saying, well, she knows those kids that she's getting aren't hers really, so she's trying to find or go to a universe with both her kids.
I was
Vision.
a little
Yeah, she doesn't care about
Vision.
Vision.
I was
She
a
doesn't
little
care about
surprised
Vision anymore.
that we didn't see a Vision. I kind of would have been.
Though,
Not-
if you think about it, those kids were never Visions to begin with. Like she created them, she created that Vision.
True.
Her Vision was gone a couple years ago.
Her kids, but her kids are gone. But she's gonna go steal other kids, steal a different Vision as well.
I mean, just
Clay.
collect them, go around shopping
Exactly.
for your family. Yeah.
This one's it's half off because you get two of them.
I was surprised there was only one little reference to Vision throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
Clay, you brought up a good point about the Nexus. I had WandaVision on while I was working today, just as background noise, and one of the commercials was for a Nexus like depression drug. I
Yep.
find that interesting.
Yeah. Those were the days of thinking Mephisto was controlling it all.
He still is.
Something.
So kind of moving towards the end of this act at that point, looking at we get a variant of Christine who's working for the Baxter Foundation, so that's a nice little reference there. But they are basically running away. Another great Raimi chase down the monster, going Wanda, Scarlet Witch, chasing them through lock after lock after lock. At that point, I mean, I just, again, even though at least Strange is going to make it, America's going to make it. I'm not sure about variant Christine, but it was still kept me on the edge of my seat of how scary Wanda was.
Seeing Wanda as like a completely black shadow with just red eyes was one of the coolest things I probably could have seen in this movie.
Sure.
And in the moment of like it slowed down, we saw like every single drop, we heard every single drop, and then all of a sudden she just like goes into the frame. Oh, it's so good. It was so good.
That chase scene was pretty epic. And I know I give the MCU a lot of crap for not feeling very director focused. This is probably top tier director focused film for me. I just wish the story was a little bit better. Just to go ahead and say that. So
No, you're fair.
enjoyed those aspects.
So they finally get to that book of the MacGuffin of this Vishanti, and that didn't last too long because that gets destroyed pretty quick. And Chavez's powers are activated through Wanda and send Strange and Christine to a more sinister, mostly destroyed universe.
Thought you were going to try a Sinister Six there, Chris.
See this comment from Stu Little. Anyone else wonder how Mysterio came up with the same designation for 616 as Christine did? Yes, I did wonder that. The real answer is boring. It's because they hadn't written this movie yet, and they weren't going to limit themselves based on a throwaway line in a previous movie that doesn't actually connect directly. But no, yeah, I thought of that too. You're absolutely right.
And again, brings to the point that kind of Clay brought up earlier with, is he going to Lucas it, or is he going to, no, we just accept, hey, guess what? We screwed up. We needed to write ourselves into a cool thing. We didn't realize we were going to write ourselves into a corner, so here we are.
And I don't even think this is a screw up. It's just we didn't have this idea till later.
Yeah.
And the only way you don't run into those problems is if you were to believe they had the next 50 projects mapped out and ready to go with nothing ever changing. And we know for a fact that they change things on a fairly regular basis, even pre-COVID. So
Yeah.
I will
up
let the
in No Way Home.
yes, she was. I will let the
Movie
616 thing go away, but it is a funny bit of trivia.
No, it is. It is good. So, all right. Any last thoughts on Act 2 before we take our next ad break and head into the end? All right. Let us head there. So, all right, listeners, you know the drill. These ads come on. Ads can be a bit loud. We don't choose them. You may and may not listen to them. That's all on you. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. All right. Like everything, our journey's come to an end. We are now on, I don't even know if we've got a designation for this particular Earth. I could not find one while doing the notes for this one, but we're just going to call it Sinister Strange's failed incursion.
Was it Sinister Strange though?
I've seen more people referring to this Strange as Sinister Strange.
Because
it wasn't Strange Supreme.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Okay.
Different
Okay.
characters.
Sinister Strange and Strange Supreme. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's my fault. I got those two
You're good.
mixed
You're
up.
good.
I again always appreciate a good edit. Knowing that Christine was a part of those scenes, and in the trailers they took her out. Really enjoyed that. But I just love the look of this universe. Seeing that the Sanctum Sanctorum is just out in the middle of nowhere, very desolate, very foggy, and of course only Strange going in. I will say this had one of my biggest eye rolls in this certain fight they're about to get into.
Oh, the Scott Pilgrim fight?
But yes, the Scott Pilgrim fight. But it is one of the biggest things that I have been asking for in all of my comic book movies. This was the most comic book fight of the entire movie. And I after the big eye roll, I really got into it. I will say I didn't know how I was going to feel with Danny Elfman being a part of this. And I will say every single guitar riff in this movie made me feel a certain way, and I absolutely loved it.
I loved the score. Yeah, the score was great.
Yeah, he's made up for Justice League.
Yeah.
The fight that happens in this sequence between our two Stranges is this is the moment for me that felt the cheesiest, but at the same time, it was both visually and the score during it were just really interesting. So it is something unlike anything we've seen, in a Marvel movie to date. And so, I mean, it was still kind of cool, but I did find it really cheesy the way they were like throwing musical notes at each other and it bounced off.
I love that.
Big reason for it.
I'm like, is it a musical world or something? Like, I don't know, but
Music Meister took
but
over.
it was interesting to watch. We haven't seen that before, so cool. They showed us some new stuff.
Yeah.
I loved it. Matt was like, are they really doing this thing right now? Like, this looks so stupid. And I thought it was great.
I did roll my eyes, but it was a good fight. I'll admit it.
It's a cool
Scott Pilgrim did better.
It's a cool visual gag. Again, it's just like, how are they going to battle? Are they just going to do throwing magical bolts at each other and things like that? It was a different way to fight at that point.
Yeah.
But what I really appreciated was hearing Sinister Strange's kind of not only explanation of of his world's loss of the incursion, but also this is where we get more explanation of the Darkhold's problem and what it could. Even though yes, if we've seen WandaVision, you get some of that from Agatha explaining it to Wanda, but this is where we really get into here's what happens when you really fall into the trap of the Darkhold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I do love that. The one thing that gave me real big creep vibes is like, oh, I'll give you the Darkhold if you give me Christine, and I was like, ooh,
Yeah.
gross.
I was like, did we really need that? Like, I get that it's a whole thing, but like, did
But
we really need that?
But after the fight, because I mean, that Strange from that world did not end well. Getting completely impaled.
Yeah, he's
The
fine.
use of the Darkhold for Strange, and again, this idea of bringing in Defender Strange again, the use of edits, the use of how people are assuming these trailers are going to be integrated into this movie. I legit thought that this was going to be Zombie Strange from What If.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely
Yeah.
was not that.
I
And
thought it
then
was Zombie Wanda in Act 2 against
Same.
the
Yeah.
Illuminati.
A lot of people did.
Yeah.
A lot of people did. Yeah.
Yeah. But I loved all of that. The only thing that, again, another eye roll is some of Christine's one-liners when it's like, go back to hell, and she like lights the freaking
She
cannon
should have said
thing on
drag
fire.
you to hell. That would have been anyway.
It was a little like that person who's always loved the movies and they're now getting their chance to live it, It's like, oh god, you just expected something at the end of like, I got to get better at quipping or something.
They really need to watch CSI Miami and David Caruso. I mean, the man lives by his quips.
Fair.
But it was a very cool, gimmick or idea to use the Darkhold, because I was even questioning, like, okay, he needs another Doctor Strange in that universe. He's from that universe, and then just a little wink of like, who says they need to be alive. That was very
that
cool.
was cool,
Very
yeah.
campy with the arm coming out of the grave. Really, really cool stuff.
I
Again,
was
pure
like,
Sam
oh
Raimi.
my gosh, he's gonna use the zombie. He's gonna use the zombie. And Matt always gets really mad at me. I'm one of those people. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, I like to talk during movies. It's bad.
I had forgotten that the dead Strange had been buried. Like, I had forgotten about him. And so as soon as he says, who says they have to be alive, I'm like, holy crap. Oh, you're right. Okay, let's see what this is like. Weird.
Let's
But
go.
I mean, it's been weird so far. Let's ride it all
works.
the way.
And just the idea of like you see the demons coming out to you, you've broken one of the rules. You're not supposed to use it to reanimate basically the dead at that point. So you see Christine fighting them off at that point. But then when Zombie / Steven, our Steven, is learning to control the demons, using them as this cape and this like,
Yeah, that was kind of cool.
like I think it was
So
the Geek
cool.
First guys that were saying, I think it was Travis, like, those hot toys are amazing and expensive at that point, but I want to see them do that one right. I'm with them on that.
Have they released a wave of the what are the action figures? The one the
Legends?
build
Funkos?
the Legends ones where they build, where they also do the build a figure for Doctor Strange yet?
Oh,
Or
I know what you're talking about. I don't know what they're called, nor have I seen them.
I've
Okay.
seen some, but I don't know if the build a figure is a part of them yet.
okay,
So.
because that would be kind of cool if the build a figure was freaking Zombie Strange, and you have to build the zombie, and you can actually work with these parts falling off
That
and
would
whatnot.
be cool.
But this also brings me to, I think, something that even Katie will probably bring up. We got very little, and again, it's not, Wong and the Multiverse of Madness, but I do feel
Sorcerer
like
Supreme. Sorcerer Supreme.
his Sorcerer Supreme, but I do feel like he was kind of thrown off to the wayside here.
I mean, he
Thrown
was
off the
literally
cliff?
thrown off a cliff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah, literally. He was a character, and he is a character that we have seen a lot of in Phase 4, and so I thought he may have had a little bit more of a presence here, and he didn't. So,
But when he came back, though, like when he is climbing up the mountainside, and I did not expect. Like I knew he was climbing up there, but I didn't expect him to throw that not shuriken, the
Kunai. Yeah.
kunai. Thank you. And right through that one monster's face, and then have him fall over like that. I cheered. That was awesome. It was a good scene. I wasn't expecting that. I'd expected him to get up there, but I didn't expect it to be in that way.
I mean, it is worth noting he's a supporting character.
Yeah.
And he fulfilled that role. Would I have liked more of him? Absolutely. But, we got just a little bit of him with the cameo in No Way Home and slightly more in Shang-Chi. So I still feel like we've seen him recently.
And I say with this, this kind of goes back to what Hines was getting at, where talking about Steven's growth at this point, when Wong is telling him, take America's power, we can't, we don't have the time, you got to do it. At that point, he's looking at her and he makes a decision of, no, I'm going to free her and give her, I guess, pep talk, zombie talk at that point to, get her to kind of, that, cliche as it is at that point, getting her to finally believe in herself and to do it, but does it in such an amazing way in the sense of, oh, I'm going to break her in a different way. I'm not going to beat the crud out of her. I'm going to beat her psychologically and sends her back to 838 and basically break her freaking heart with how Billy and Tommy, and this was one of my factor fictions that, in some way she would try to take him and they would absolutely reject her and just utterly destroy her.
Yeah. What's interesting is America was able to do exactly that. She was able to show her that what you're doing is wrong. Strange said that exact same thing. Now, he just said it to her in the beginning, and she just brushed it aside like, no, that is... Like, I don't care what you say, I'll make it happen. But actually finally seeing it with her eyes, that's what broke her. That's what made her realize, no, I've been wrong this entire time. I became the monster. And so, she decides at that moment, all right, cool, I did wrong. I'm going to correct it as best I can. My first thought is that she was going to bring back everybody she had killed, even though that's kind of bad as well. But when she does destroy the crypt / throne, wasn't real clear on that one, and the tower comes crashing down on her, and we see a little dusting after it crashes down. We see the big old pile of smoke poof off. We don't see a body, and we're going to get more Wanda in the future, just guaranteed. And I say this only because she destroys the Darkhold. And then back in 838 universe, some time passes, and then the Darkhold there disappears.
It's destroyed. Yeah.
So she's destroying all Darkholds across all the universes. But to me, the fact that it didn't go instantly just makes me think, all right, she's going to take them out one by one individually. She's still around.
My biggest thing I absolutely hate like the faux death moment. It's a big pet peeve of mine. I hate it.
No body, no death.
Huh?
No body, no death.
And I get that, but it's still like okay, we really have to use this trope over and over again that they're just going to die and they go off and do something on their own, and then we'll see them later on. I hate it.
Read more comics, Katie.
I think more so.
I don't think that'll change my opinion.
That will definitely make it worse.
Yep.
I think more so. I think the big part of probably Katie's complaint here is the fact that they make such a big moment of her crashing everything down, and so it could be a very emotional moment of like, she genuinely felt like the only way she could fix things was to die, which, as dramatic as that is, it would have been like an oh shit. But let's be completely honest. Ever since WandaVision, everybody's been thirsting over Olsen. Everybody's been like,
Mhm.
even on the red carpet, she's like, I don't know why people call me mommy, but I think it's
That
cute.
was
I think it's
hilarious.
funny.
Wow.
That was
Yeah.
hilarious.
She actually doesn't know like any of these like, trends and stuff, and so I laughed a lot during that. But as far as like the whole like talking her down thing, it is one thing that I do have a pet peeve about. This one I did not, because of the reason Chris was saying. This is showing like how much of a monster Wanda really is, and having her open her own eyes. It's not like somebody genuinely just talking her down. It's not like
Yeah.
we're gonna win with the power of love. Like no, it's
love
it's
that
not
film.
it's not Wonder Woman. It's not Scott Pilgrim. Like
There
It-
never
There will
mind.
be
I
no
won't go there.
there will
I
be
won't
no
go there.
besmirching Mr. Pilgrim.
Oh no. Scott Pilgrim's great. I actually just finished that whole series not too long ago. So
well, go ahead, Brent. Go
I
ahead.
was gonna say you're right. Like there wasn't like this power of love moment, but it's cool because like for a second there, like America, like gets some confidence and starts to figure out how to control her powers. I don't think she like has it perfectly yet, but she starts to figure it out. And for just a moment, I was like, don't have her like beat Wanda up, right? Like Wanda's so powerful, America should not be able to come in and do this to her. Sure, get a couple hits off, but then she did beat her psychologically, and I thought that was such a great twist. It wasn't what I was expecting to happen, and I love that scene. I love the way that Wanda was defeated in this. Regarding the trope of no body, no death, absolutely. Yes, allegedly, it's still technically a rumor, but allegedly she extended her deal recently. I kind of agree with, I think it was Snell who was saying this, that like the way they did this, say that deal never got extended, okay, it's a clean out for the character. If it does get extended, it's super easy to bring her back. So I think it was a fine ending, and I tend to believe these rumors that I've seen that the deal got extended. So I'm like, great, okay, more Wanda. When she comes back, hopefully she's dealing with some of the repercussions of this, the way Wanda does in the comics when she gets back. Like post House of M, how like some of the other heroes were like real apprehensive around her. I want to see that.
Yeah.
I want to see that, and maybe we will.
And that
need
is a
to.
critique of mine. I need to see some actual like aftermath of this, and not just be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
Wanda,
well,
open
not just this. Westview as well. Like she has to answer for a lot.
Oh, this is so much worse than Westview. Westview
Oh,
is
I
not
know.
even a blip on
No,
the
I
radar
know.
anymore.
But tell that to the people in Westview.
I will.
Okay.
Because all of the Carmitage people died.
I know, yeah.
For real.
Not all of
That's
them.
the thing. And when we did our comic book club was reading Illuminati #0. I mean, Namor calls it out, saying, "Do you want to open up your list of ranks, Avengers or X-Men, of how many assassins or former villains are on your team? Do you really want the public looking closely at that? And so you're right. Accountability is going to be very interesting with Wanda moving forward. But kind of bringing to the end of it, Christine goes back to 838. That's where Strange says, I've always loved my Christine, but I was too scared to have a real relationship. Chavez, as you brought up earlier, begins training as a sorceress at Camartage, and flash to some time later, and Strange is walking outside, stops in the middle of the street, and screaming, shows that he developed a third eye like Sinister Strange. And we cut to black.
Katie, you had your hand up real quick. What was that?
Yeah, sorry. I had two things about the
Yep.
finale scene, and it kind of moved on
Sorry.
quickly.
Yeah,
through
go for
that.
it. Go for it.
Okay, so America Chavez, the thing I could have understood, like the not using not able to understand your powers thing, but then she's literally just able to jump right into it and select the proper universe to show Wanda with her kids that she's the monster and everything. So her like physically doing all of that, like I kind of struggled with going, okay, I can understand a little bit of like, I hate the term Mary Sue, but I can understand like a little bit of it, but that felt like really far-fetched for me.
Part of me thinks that is because it's a universe she has been to. She maybe has the
She
ability
had
to
been to
read.
73 universes.
She
Sure.
had been to that one 5 minutes ago.
Correct. Like that was the latest one she was at. So she had a more solid access to it.
I think it's a reasonable question. That's
Yes.
just, that was what I thought about when I was thinking is she was just there. So she's probably more connected. They don't tell us that though.
Think of it like
Yeah.
vibe. There's like in the Flash, he can recognize vibrations of places that he's already been.
Mhm.
I would
Right, but
assume
then
it's
she
something
hasn't
like that.
been. She hasn't been to the universe where Christine and Doctor Strange are. So then she's literally able to turn around 5 minutes later and go pull them out of that universe and bring them back to 616.
Well, she does kind of question it because she's like, "Oh, I'll find you." Like she's like, "It may take a while, but I'll find
Yeah,
you."
we don't know how long it takes.
That's a fair point.
Just
though.
like we don't know how
Fair
many
point.
years it's take. I don't know. But it's a good point. Yeah.
No, it is.
And then crap, there's one more thing. Oh, with Wanda facing consequences. Yes, I agree she needs to face some consequences, and obviously y'all read more comics than I have, but I just hate that literally her entire journey is she's facing consequences left and right for things.
I would
Well,
like
it-
to
it-
introduce
it
you
br-
to the comic version of
it-
Wanda.
It
I'm
brings
speaking of the version that I know. So,
no, but
Yeah,
it
yeah.
brings up the line that she says: when you break the rules, you're regarded as a hero. When I do it, I become the enemy, or I
And
become
she
the
even
Yeah.
called
villain.
him out as
and
being a
it's gonna harken
hypocrite
it back to
Yeah.
them.
for the Dreamwalking.
Yep.
It is a great line, and you're right, Katie. It's quite. It's going to be interesting to see when does she get, if and when does she get happiness? You know.
Yeah.
Never.
Spoilers.
She's dead right now, Katie.
No, she's not.
Allegedly.
No body,
Alleged-
no death.
Thank you.
So so that third eye developing at that point. So that's part of Strange consequence for wielding the Darkhold as he did.
So I wanted to bring this up for some of the stuff that I have been reading in comics, because this was very strange to me. From what I
Unintended.
have read recently, is Strange developed the third eye, and again, this is MCU, so they can change what they want, but the Eye of Agamotto was what got Strange his third eye in comics, was it not?
Mhm. Yes, correct.
So, which it did make a return here in this movie. It doesn't have the time stone, but it is still the Eye of Agamotto. And usually the third eye is something that is a truth like seer. It's not like something that I would assume would come with like dark-esque powers. So it was
does-
a little
It does during the incursions and time runs out.
okay. So that I did not know. It's just like, because I was looking back at it, and I know that it does have like this power to like see the truth.
Mhm.
And I think that is very convenient with the ideas of scrolls being around in the
Mhm.
world right now. And then also allegedly, and then also he just forget somebody very important to the MCU, kind of.
Aunt May.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot her too.
Yeah.
We all miss Aunt May.
We all miss her. But yeah, I think it would be a little bit of a MacGuffin, but a fun MacGuffin to just be like, hey, look, now we have this thing. It's going to be a way to easily explain some stuff in the future, possibly. But yeah, it was very interesting how they came about using it here in the MCU.
Yeah, so I think let's just get to that. You know, there were 2 end credits. Let's just put the other one out there. The funny one at the end, Bruce Campbell's finally stopped beating himself up. You know, especially
Go home.
Yep.
It's over.
But the true one is Strange is apparently no longer screaming in the middle of the street. He's walking around and approached by a sorceress who is played by Charlize Theron, and who warns him that his actions have triggered an incursion and invites Strange to join her into the dark dimension to help fix it. Ask him, "Are you afraid?" He's like, "Nope, I'm ready to face my fears." This sorceress is Clea, and Clea in the comics is the daughter of a prince and formerly ruled over the dark dimension, and she is the niece to Dormammu. She's from a race known as the Faltine, which makes her very powerful. At one point, she was the sorceress supreme on her universe. She's brought up believing that Dormammu was someone who to be worshipped, and it is possible that that may be the one who threatens the universe. I did see a theory going around that Dormammu could be a Strange variant. Remember, Tony Todd was originally supposed to be the voice of Dormammu, but they switched it to Mr. Benedict Cumberbatch at the last minute. So I've seen that theory going around.
That's a really cool theory.
Mhm.
So Clea and Strange do have a thing for each other, and they do get married at one point. So,
I've read those issues.
And
Currently-
Charlize Theron is in Fast and Furious, so hashtag
Yes.
family.
exactly.
And
Hashtag family.
currently, Clea is the current Sorcerer Supreme and Doctor Strange
Yes.
of
Oh, nice.
the 616 universe in comics.
Yep.
Nice.
So yeah, welcome Charlize Theron to the MCU.
I don't think anyone in my theater knew who Charlize Theron was.
No.
Same.
Because I was the only one who goes, they got her, and it was audible. Like Matt was again like, shut up. Like
You're embarrassing me, honey.
I was.
can't help it.
Continue on, Katie.
No, but this is the one I texted Chris and Clay after the movie theater, and my first text was, they got Charlize in all caps. And then my second text was, is it bad that I was more excited for John Krasinski versus Patrick Stewart? That was the text messages that
Yeah.
I sent to Chris and Clay.
And you're right. This
To
is
each their own.
this is the end. This is the end credits of Avengers, pretty much for the general audience again. With who is that purple guy?
Yeah.
Who was that purple girl?
So
Ah,
she pops up, and I immediately know who that was. I am like, Clea, and my buddy's like, who the hell's Clea? Like, so no one else knew. No one else. I think people recognized Charlize Theron, but I'm like, holy shit, it's Clea. Like, that's all. They never said it, and then once
Love her costume.
costume was great. Like, the whole thing was
Yeah.
great. Then she, slices open a portal to the dark dimension. I'm like, that is really cool. I'm excited to see where this is going.
I recognized, I couldn't remember her name, but I recognized who it was because I think I went down a rabbit hole because I asked Chris and Brent, what do I need to know about America Chavez? And then I went down a rabbit hole of like
Yes, you did.
everybody who could be connected.
Nice.
This is why I just ask questions versus Googling it with like MCU stuff because I spend way too much time on this stuff.
Sure.
So I knew who she was. I couldn't remember her name. Chris had to remind me her name. But I was really excited. The one thing that I think I wish they didn't show is because they act like the end of the movie is such this big cliffhanger. Like he's screaming as a third eye comes out of his forehead. And then they just show him in this mid-credits and he's perfectly fine and has accepted this third
yeah,
eye.
that was rough.
Yeah, but
It's a little
they also
weird.
don't.
We
Have
don't know
a
the
time
amount
frame.
of time had.
No, we
passed
don't. We
between
don't.
those
It's just
two.
Which is
Yeah.
You're
it's
not
really
wrong.
weird.
Excuse all this y'all's excuse this whole time is we don't know how much time has passed.
Comic
Well,
book logic. I say it all
Well,
the time.
the time thing is true and is obviously the answer, but for us it was like 5 minutes or whatever. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of with Katie. It was a little weird. Whereas the like WandaVision stuff, like we know definitively it's been like over a year. This was 5 minutes for us. It was a little clunky.
A McClunky, if you will.
Yeah. Oh. So, all right. I want to bring up as we kind of close out some stuff before we head into ratings and things like that. This was Feige on the red carpet brought up something, and Travis Snell and I were talking about this, and I said this brings a very interesting point about Feige saying something on the red carpet, and it's not in the movies and Disney Plus show to fully explain it. So this is his explanation, but I don't know if we're gonna get a explanation about this. He says he in his opinion. He confirmed that Loki and Sylvie were who unleashed the multiverse. In addition to that, he mentioned that the death of He Who Remains was the reason Strange's spell failed in No Way Home, bringing all the villains.
Interesting.
People were talking about this and like making a big deal about it, and I get the obvious. There's the obvious of it wasn't actually in the content, and the more I thought about it, I'm like, it was in the content. We literally saw the timelines branch off of each other at the end of Loki. Like I'm like, maybe it was just me, but since that episode of Loki, I have thought, well, that's how the multiverse stuff is happening.
And also, didn't we all in our chat make the assumption, and I'm pretty sure it was during the reaction that we did for that trailer of No Way Home, we saw the spell go wrong, and we all said, oh, that kind of looks like what had happened to the sacred timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't we all make that assumption anyway?
I thought everybody did, but apparently not.
Yeah.
Once Feige
I didn't
basically
put that
confirmed
together.
it.
I forget a lot.
This is brand new information.
I do
Yeah.
think it's valid. Sure, like have somebody directly mention it, but I don't think Doctor Strange is going to see that. He's not going to know that Loki, a Loki that he's never met or heard of at the end of time, killed this other person he's never met or heard of, and Spider-Man certainly isn't going to know any of that. So they wouldn't know any of that stuff. So it almost wouldn't make sense to show that in this movie unless those characters also popped up. But if you watch
Strange
Loki,
did
you
meet
know why it
Loki.
happened.
When?
Strange met Loki in Thor Ragnarok.
Strange met a different Loki in Thor
Yeah.
Ragnarok.
Mm-hmm.
He did not meet
Oh.
the Loki at the end of time.
That's true. So, all right. So just something to think about, but these are kind of quick hits at that point. So where do we see Doctor Strange next?
Probably as another assisting character.
In 3 other movies before his next one,
Yep.
based on the last one.
Fair. When do we at? Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say we don't have any idea of like it. I guess Phase 4 ends with
We
Fantastic
presume
Four.
Fantastic Four because of the
Fantastic Four.
Welcome Back
Yeah.
to the Movies thing.
Yeah. So I don't see him. Easiest assumption, Phase 5.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think he's gonna
Yeah.
be. I can't. But then again, I didn't think Wong was gonna be in Shang-Chi until he just popped up. So
The real answer is What If Season 2 is probably the next
Yeah.
time we see the
yeah,
first.
good point.
Yeah. That's the easy
No.
cop out.
It is an easy cop out.
Benedict Cumberbatch has been one of my favorite actors ever since seeing him in Sherlock. So I love seeing him around. And I'm glad that he voices Doctor Strange in What If because that provides a good connection there. I want to see more of him as Doctor Strange. This is why I was so excited for this and why I was so disappointed with this one. So I would agree. Phase 5 for probably definitely for his solo movie, but he could pop up for like a 5-minute cameo in one of the other Phase 4 movies.
Oh, sure.
What about
maybe Loki?
Maybe. Yeah.
Is that gonna-
Loki
yeah.
season 2?
Yeah, but is that gonna be Phase 5 though, or is that gonna be Phase 4? Like no indication when that's coming out.
I don't think we know the answer to that yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, not yet. Wanda. I mean, my first guess with Wanda is Agatha all along.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Which could
I
also
will
be
be
Doctor
completely honest.
Strange.
I forgot that show is like that's the actual show.
I wonder if Agatha just got out. Did Wanda spell over her break when she
Maybe.
presumably died or whatever?
Oh
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm. America Chavez.
Yes. Good question.
I was like, yes.
Young Avengers, Ironheart.
Honestly, let's go with. I'm gonna have fun and say, Ironheart or maybe Miss Marvel.
Okay.
Just
Not bad.
pops up Miss Marvel as a cameo.
I don't see Miss Marvel.
It's not happening. No, it's not happening. I'm throwing it out there though, just in case.
Fiction on that.
Yeah.
I will go ahead and say that she will be in again another assumption, easy assumption, Phase 5. Like I don't think she has anything close to anything that has been announced yet.
Discounting credit scenes, which can be all over the map, I don't think she's going to pop up in any currently announced project.
Yeah. Stu Little brings up our last one, Wong, the one who was there, but not, for what it was in the movie. But I think he's he says maybe She-Hulk and Shang-Chi seems to hint of Wong being involved with.
Oh, he's saying that
Abomination.
Doctor Strange will
Oh, Doctor Strange. Oh, okay. All
be
right.
in She-Hulk.
Oh, okay. All right. Not yeah. Okay. I thought he was talking about Wong, but yeah, that works.
I do find it interesting that Wong, as the Sorcerer Supreme, is involved in a gambling arena.
Yeah, there's questions there for sure. Yeah.
He needs to blow off some steam. He needs to have a little fun.
Was
I mean,
he
after
Sorcerer
having
Supreme
to
at the
deal
time,
with,
though?
with Steven
Yeah,
I mean, he
every
was,
while.
but that's the point.
Sorcerer Supreme after.
Yeah, he
Infinity
was.
War.
He was.
I want Wong
Technicality.
to show up in the Disney Plus series that he has sort of not pitched, which will never happen because of licensing, where he is basically training Ned in the ways of.
Oh,
I
yeah.
would
Oh,
love
yeah.
that.
That sounds like
Love that.
so much fun.
And that's where America Chavez will show up too.
Yep.
But they're never going to use the Spider-Man character that way and use one of their appearances ever.
Yeah. And also the Ten Rings mystery show.
Mhm.
So, all right. Rating time. So going down the line, we'll start with Clay. Rating out of 10, and where does this rank if you have it ranked in your MCU?
Out of 10, I could easily give this an 8.5. There was some writing plot holes types of things. Again, like I said, why isn't Wanda creating her children again? There was no mention of Vision. There was a lot of stuff that I think we were kind of wanting outside of just cameos galore that wasn't necessarily answered. So that is the misses of, getting to that 9 or 10 for sure. And as far as my ranking, I have it on Letterboxd as, let's see here, 4, 8, 9, 10. I have it 11 on my list.
Oh, all right. Nice.
That is in
Interesting.
between. It is right behind WandaVision, but right before Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Okay. All right. Joe.
I'm giving this a ranking of about an 8. It's 7.58, more closer to 8 maybe. I mirror everything Clay said. Outside of like I said, I had a little bit of problem with that first act being a little wonky to me. Still a great movie. As far as my rankings, I totally forgot to put in the Disney Plus shows. So for just the MCU movies,
Disappointed. Don't even bother.
yeah,
anymore.
look, I made it right when we started. Okay, so
It's okay, Joe. I just
Anyways.
let it go.
Hang
I know.
your head in shame.
I will. I do that constantly to my girlfriend. So let's go ahead. I'm going to put this at number 10 on my list currently. But it could easily slip into the next grouping of 10, and that grouping of 10 just gets jumbled. From 11 to 20, they're all basically the same. They can all just interchange. So,
That's what Twitter says too. They're all the same.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yep. Katie, you gave some hints. So let's I know you did out of 5, but I threw a curve at you and gave you out of 10.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's easy math.
It's easy math. So I gave it a 5 out of 10. Story is always going to be number 1 with character development for me. So the fact that several areas of those fell flat for me is why it is where it is. And it is number 25 out of 28 because I don't have the Disney Plus shows ranked on here.
Okay.
So
Well, they don't matter anyway, so that's okay.
Nothing's connected either.
I didn't realize they were on Letterboxd.
No,
Except for
they're
What
not
If.
all.
Just for
What
me.
if is
What If.
on there?
What if it's not? I can't remember. I think it was Snell who put in a random movie called What If on his letterbox.
That's why I just made my own system and I don't use Letterboxd because of that one. If they ever put it on there, I'll go back to it.
All right, Brent.
It's
you're
for
up.
movies.
I also
so-
don't like that it's out of 5.
Tell that to
out of
Loki
10.
because that's on there.
I know, which is why I'm very confused because they don't put every show on there. They just put like mega popular ones.
Yeah.
Darn right. All right, Brent, go for it.
You know, I struggle with the rating thing. This is going to be weird because I'm going to rate it higher than you and rank it lower than a couple of you. But again, like you get to that middle of the pack, like they're all. I mean, you love them all, and you got to find the most like minute details to differentiate them. So let's just call it a 9 for your number if you want a number. Ultimately, I was really, really happy with this movie. Again, I'm going into this movie cautiously optimistic because I'm not the biggest fan of horror, as I've talked about before, and I was a little nervous about like were we going to go super cheesy level, like the arms being cut off of Dr. Octopus attempt that happened in Spider-Man 2, which for me that scene doesn't work very well. And we didn't go there. To me, what cheese, what camp, what horror, all of those things that were there felt very appropriate. I love the development of Strange. I love the development of Wanda, especially coming from the first movie of Doctor Strange, because that movie definitely does have some stuff that played into this one. And then even more so with WandaVision. Like to me, Marvel doesn't do regular trilogies because they just don't. They have too many movies involved in it for that. But there is a nice little grouping there of Doctor Strange 1, WandaVision, and Doctor Strange 2 that ultimately for me I really enjoyed. Visually, it was such a treat. This movie is great. This sounds like I didn't like it as much as a couple of you, but I'm ultimately got it ranked 15, right in front of WandaVision, right behind Black Panther.
Mine's also behind Black Panther.
Yeah. Yeah, this one, I said it earlier, this is, I'm a big Sam Raimi fan, so I loved everything that he got to do with this movie. I loved all the jumps he did, the visualizations of it. Yes, there were some, even though it moved very quick and we didn't get too many places to stop and take a breath, those that we did were really significant, and where they were placed was really well done. I think, Brent had mentioned it, in our regular episode talking about Moon Knight. This is a movie I think we could have gotten maybe 15, 20 minutes more, and it might have cleared up a few things and might have made it stand out a little bit more. But I'm looking forward to my next viewing of this. Right now on my letterbox, this is where I've got to stand. And Brent, I'm with you. It's number 15, but you're obviously what your before and after are quite different from mine. I've got it right after Guardians of the Galaxy, and right after it follows Moon Knight and Hawkeye.
Very nice.
Yep. All right. So,
and can I just say, I am thankful it wasn't just a cameo fest. We had our fun little cameo world that was really, really cool and awesome and gruesome in all the best ways. But it wasn't like every 5 minutes he's on a new world with a new cameo. I'm thankful for that.
Well, also, and the cameos weren't just a cameo; they actually had a significant part in the movie,
a story reason to be there.
A meaning.
Yeah, I mean, they needed to be positioned to get their heads popped off.
Get you want your cameo fest? Get ready for Secret Wars. That's where we're
God, I hope so.
No, that feels more appropriate.
Yeah, that feels more appropriate. So, all right. So, moving down the line at that point, Clay, tell people how they can follow you, plug your shows.
Yes, of course, you can always find me at Fanboy Clay on Twitter. Go into the bio of that Twitter. You can find the link tree where you can find all the links to all the shows that I host, that including DC Alliance, Batman News Weekly, Ranger Alliance, and of course Star Wars Alliance. I am also the host newly back again with Weird Science, hosting a manga podcast where we talk about Dragon Ball. So go check that out. 2 episodes out so far. Really, really fun doing that again. And I know that Snell is out there saying, man, Clay is going to have to quit some of these podcasts by the time this baby comes around. I'm not. I'm always going to be on top with the most podcasts. But yeah.
Good luck.
Rule number 76. Don't no excuses. Play like a champion. Katie, tell people how they can follow you. Plug your shows.
So you can follow me on Twitter. It's at Slice of Katie. I'm also on Instagram at that username. I am a co-host for Star Wars Alliance along with Clay, who still has not added Star Wars Alliance to his link tree.
I thought I did.
I'm not seeing it.
Way to call him out on air, Katie.
Okay. She's done it several times. I'm going to do it literally right now.
Tells you out on air.
He will do it eventually. You don't have to tell him 300 times.
No, and Star Wars Alliance is on Twitter. It's at Star Wars Alliance without the A, and the war is very important. Don't forget it. I also co-host Slice of Film with Mark and Sarah. and that is on Twitter. It's at Slice of Film 1. Upcoming, we've got Free Guy, Top Gun, and Top Gun Maverick. So make sure you're following along.
Yeah. Joe.
Thank you guys again for having us on here. This was a blast. You
Yes.
guys can find me on Twitter at _action_. You can find my show, A Walk Through the Multiverse, on Twitter at WalkTheVerse. And you can find my other show, Comic Book Rundown, on Twitter at Comic Rundown, and on Instagram at Comic Book Rundown.
And my illustrious co-host, Brent.
Well, I feel so lazy right now. I don't have any other podcast. Yeah, Brent Tech Prime on Twitter, on TikTok. But you know what? Go connect with me on TikTok. It's way more fun than Twitter is.
It can be. One day I'll join. And
You should. It's more fun.
It is. And yes, you can follow me on Twitter at Chris Balga. You can follow this show on Twitter at Marvel 8 Podcast. You can follow my other show, World's Finest True Believers, at Finest Believers. You can email this show at marvelalliancepodcast@gmail.com. You can follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network at GUA Pod Network. Feel free to tweet, email if you want to provide feedback, fact or fiction, to ask questions. Continue to rate the Marvel Alliance solo feed, GUA feed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever platform of choice may be. Thank you all. For those of you that joined us in the live chat, we had our biggest grouping shown tonight, so I really appreciate that. Thank you all for listening. Stay safe out there, everyone. And as Stan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers. All right. Post credits. Where does the MCU go with the multiverse head to next in Phase 4 and beyond?
I mean, the first obvious place to me is Loki season 2. I know people are like, "Oh, that's time travel." Again, I will die on this hill. Two sides, same coin.
Yep, agreed.
I'm thinking Quantum Mania, probably. I think the multiverse is a good spot for that, especially with Kong the Destroyer and all his variants. So,
yes, agreed.
Secret Wars is obviously going to be coming up. That's going to play into it a little bit.
I think I will agree with Katie with Quantumania first before Loki. Because I mean the hints are all there for Secret Wars, but I mean I don't think I've ever read the Hickman run, so I definitely need to jump on that, to be completely honest.
Get ready for some timey-wimey wobbly stuff.
Yeah, no
Yes,
joke.
wibbly wobbly, timey wimey.
There you go.
Yeah,
I feel like with Quantumania and Loki, like Kang's connected to them both. It's really going to come down to which one comes out first, and we just don't have a release date for Loki season 2. Ant-Man and the Wasp, February 17th, 2023. It's it's only 287 days away. That's pretty soon.
Yeah, I do like the idea of, I think, Quantumania will be the biggest first hint. But my interest is, at this point, we've now set in motion the idea of incursions, and that, that's where Strange is heading with Clea at that point. Where do we see this incursion affect the MCU? My guess is this is a complete shot in the dark. It hasn't even been written yet. We've lost a director. I say Fantastic Four is where we start seeing these incursions really start coming back into play.
I just want to say, if Krasinski ends up taking the director spot for Fantastic Four, I want to see some alien stuff A Quiet Place. So.
Oh.
I still haven't
Annihilus
seen
is
those
coming.
movies. So
God, I hope so.
I was talking at work today. If he ends up the director for FF, I will probably check out at least the first A Quiet Place, just to get a sense of his director style.
First one was great. I still have to see the second one.
The second one was great.
Okay.
# so shameless plug, check out my slice of Quiet Places.
Maybe after I watch the movie, then I will.
Yeah.
I've done both, so.
I gotta watch the second movie still.
Well, no, but I did the first one.
Yeah, and I've already listened to it.
Oh, thanks.
That is my co-host for Batman News Weekly. He says, should studios stop releasing in other countries before American release? I don't care about the MCU anymore, but I saw every good scene from Doctor Strange 2 on YouTube. Because I mean, there's a lot of this that was.
There
put out
is that
there.
goes the other way too. If something gets
Yeah.
released here before over there,
Yeah, release it when
which
you release it.
I realize typically it is released like overseas before here, usually by a week or two. In general, personally, I would say whatever possible, go the same weekend.
Yeah, and again, we talked about this a little bit last week, or excuse me, this episode this week is that Feige doesn't control, unfortunately, the marketing with
Mhm.
this. He
Clearly,
should.
with him being upset with the trailers for Doctor Strange 2.
Yeah. I would like to have him a little bit because again, it would prevent some of these things that we saw with those last few mini trailers from Doctor Strange. But hey, here we go. Stuart Little. Stop complaining. You get
Poor
home releases
Stuart.
much sooner. No. Okay, you're right, Stu. Sorry. We'll stop.
Stuart, if you think this is complaining, go check out DC Alliance or Star Wars Alliance. People yell at us all the time.
I don't get yelled at over at Walk to the Multiverse. Nobody likes me.
I want it on the record. I'm not the one who said that. I just put that on the record.
All right,
We just make fun of ourselves now.
we'll see where we're heading to the multiverse next. Stay with Marvel Alliance. We'll come at you normal time next week. And they see you next Thursday at 9:10. All right, all stay safe in the multiverse.
Bye, guys.
Bye, y'all.